All began on a stormy night, a night that would change lives forever. Imagine this: the sound of heavy rain pounding against the windshield, the distant echo of thunder, and a single father driving home after working late, completely unaware that fate was about to bring him face to face with a past he thought he had buried. And at the end of this story, you'll understand why life's coincidences are never just coincidences. Daniel Ross was a hard-working single dad raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. It had been 3 years since his beloved wife, Claire, passed away from a sudden illness. Losing her had shattered his world, and ever since, Daniel had devoted every ounce of his energy to being both mother and father to Lily. His life was simple: wake up, pack his daughter's lunch, work at the auto repair shop all day, and come home to help with homework and bedtime stories. There was no room for love, no space for dreams. Just survival and responsibility. That night, as Daniel drove home from the shop, the rain grew heavier, and visibility was poor. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a flash of headlights swerving off the slippery road. In a matter of seconds, a car crashed violently into a ditch, smoke rising from under the hood. Without hesitation, Daniel pulled over. He wasn't the kind of man to ignore someone in trouble. The wreck was worse than he expected. The car was crumpled, the windshield shattered. Inside was a young woman, unconscious, her head resting against the steering wheel. Daniel's heart raced as he yanked open the door, fighting against the twisted metal, the rain soaking him to the bone. He pulled her out just as the engine began to spark. Carrying her in his arms, he laid her gently on the grass by the roadside, checking her breathing. She was alive, but barely conscious. Her face was familiar somehow, though Daniel couldn't place it at first. At the hospital later that night, the doctor reassured him she would recover. Daniel waited, uneasy, feeling a strange pull toward this stranger. When she finally woke up, she looked at him with wide, disoriented eyes. Then came the words that shook him: "Daniel? You're Claire's husband, aren't you?" Confused and startled, Daniel stared at her. "How do you know my wife?" he asked. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Because Claire was my sister. I'm Emily." Daniel froze. He had never met Emily, though Claire had spoken about her long ago. The sisters had been estranged, family conflicts and pride had torn them apart, and Claire had passed before they ever reconciled. Emily lived abroad, building her empire, becoming a millionaire entrepreneur. Claire, on the other hand, had chosen a simple, quiet life with Daniel. And now, here was Emily, the sister he had never known, lying in a hospital bed after he had dragged her out of a wreck. Guilt flooded Emily's heart. She confessed to Daniel that she had always regretted not making peace with her sister. She had watched from afar, keeping track of Claire's life, but her pride had kept her away. Now, faced with Daniel and little Lily, she felt a crushing weight of both sorrow and responsibility. Over the weeks that followed, Emily visited often. At first, Daniel resisted her presence. He was protective of Lily and wary of a wealthy woman who had abandoned family ties. But Emily wasn't the cold, distant millionaire he assumed. She bonded with Lily over bedtime stories and art projects, filling a void the little girl had quietly carried since her mother's passing. Still, challenges arose. Daniel struggled with pride, refusing Emily's offers of financial help. "I don't need your money," he snapped one evening. "Lily and I are doing just fine." But Emily wasn't trying to replace him, she only wanted to make amends, to honor Claire's memory by being part of their lives. Slowly, Daniel began to see the truth. Emily wasn't there to flaunt her wealth. She was there because she had lost her sister and didn't want to lose the chance to know her niece. In Emily, Lily found an aunt who could tell her stories about her mother's childhood, stories Daniel himself had never heard. And in Daniel, Emily saw the love her sister had once described in letters she never answered, the kind of love that was steady, selfless, and rare. As months passed, an unexpected closeness grew between Daniel and Emily. Not romance at first, but trust. Two people connected by loss and bound by the love of the same woman. Daniel began to lean on her, just a little, and Emily discovered a side of life far away from boardrooms and luxury. She cooked with them, laughed with them, and for the first time in years, felt like she had a family. The turning point came one day when Lily, with the innocence only a child could have, asked Emily, "And Emily, can you stay forever?" Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she hugged the little girl tightly. Daniel saw it too, the sincerity, the love, the healing that was happening right before his eyes. By the end of the story, Daniel and Emily were no longer just strangers tied by fate. They had built something new together, a family, not by blood alone, but by choice. Daniel had saved Emily's life on that stormy night, but in truth, Emily had saved his too. She reminded him that love could return after loss, and that sometimes, the people we need most come into our lives when we least expect them. So, if you're listening right now, remember this: life has a way of surprising us. Pain can turn into healing, strangers can become family, and broken hearts can learn to beat again. Daniel thought he was just rescuing a stranger from a wreck. He had no idea he was rescuing the very person who would help rebuild his world.